Hey guys, I'm gonna ask you the same question I asked you before for the second group of companies, and then we're gonna ask for all companies. But for just the second group, which one was your favorite between Up2, Block, UI, Aloha Mobile, and Virtual Gaming Worlds? Which one was your favorite out of those five? Does anybody have a favorite?
Run them through us again.
Up2, Block, coding made easy in your browser. UI 2.0, emotional tracking through your webcam. Aloha Mobile. Breaking your phone during a car accident in a Nerf ball, and Virtual Gaming World, multi-level marketing, Avon scams to get your friends to pay you a rake while playing bingo. Might be how somebody would interpret it. Amway for casinos. Get your friends to come gamble at your
And was Fantasy Politics one of them?
That was the last group.
Got it.
Yeah, we're just going to pick this group right now, the favorite.
I'll go first. I would pick Block as my number one choice. I think it's doing something really meaningful, and the product design and execution was really well done. The second one would be the last one. What was their name?
Virtual Gaming Worlds.
Okay. Very creative name.
VGW.
But Virtual Gaming Worlds would be the second pick.
What did SGN stand for again? Sorry.
I was thinking that at the same time.
Social Gaming Network, Virtual Gaming World. It's pretty close. Okay. Dave, what was your favorite?
I think the Aloha, the mobile
platform,
network.
SDK.
I just think there's just a very large potential there. I think they need kind of probably some help sort of thinking through the business models and sort of business strategy, but the technology is very impressive, and there's a huge number of applications for that. So I just think that they get that right. That's just it's a big opportunity, and Virtual Gaming World second.
Cyan, your favorite?
I am so incredibly torn between Virtual Gaming Worlds and Captricity.
Well, Captricity was the first group.
Oh,
You're just doing the second group.
Virtual Gaming Worlds.
Okay, great. Brad?
I'd put Virtual Gaming Worlds first, notwithstanding the social implications, and Aloha second.
Great. Sky?
I mean, I think that UI is kind of a no-brainer. But is there sort of alumni coming back? I think of a company that's launching here, Aloha. I put Block up there as like doing something really big and huge. I think they have to evolve it a little bit further.
Yeah, it's
but
a little
Aloha
raw.
is like, if they can get the business model figured out, the pricing and so forth, and how they're going to go to market, the technology to enable all kinds of amazing apps from games to personal safety and everything is.
And a no-brainer for Google, Microsoft, or Apple to buy.
Yeah, I have to like dig into the technology, but
yeah,
it looks like that.
Yeah, and Matt?
I think Virtual Gaming World. I thought the product's good. It's monster market, and I just like that guy. He's sharp. He's on it. He knew the metrics. He knew what's happening, and he's crisp.
Yeah, felt very credible. Tony?
I echo 100% that. I was super impressed by the founder of Virtual Gaming World.
Now,
massive multi-billion-dollar opportunity, proven model, really clear, elegant, interface. If that's live, it's really well done.
True is not able to invest in pornography or any kind of morality kind of challenged businesses, obviously, with your limited partners. So this would be not on the table for True Ventures.
Unlikely.
Benchmark invested in Betfair.
Right.
I think people have done, as long as it's legal, I think there are some VCs that would do it.
Do the gambling stuff. And do you think that perception is going to change when Zynga and Facebook embrace, gambling, which they're obviously going to? I mean, it's obviously.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of investors, some of whom are probably here, who invest in a lot of illegal music sites.
Right.
I mean, So what you're saying is the morality of investors might be...
This is a legal business.
There are dozens of hedge funds who would be thrilled to invest in Virtual Gaming Worlds. It's not there's not only one place these guys can go for capital. Talk to the guys from Tiger. My hedge fund would be interested in investing in these guys.
I don't think they'll have any problem getting money.
Right. I think also, you've seen this across the web in general, is that guys debate that until it's making a lot of money, and then it's not a problem.
Yeah, I mean, people...
That's reality. Which I'm not saying that's the right reality, but I think that guys will yap on that kind of stuff as funds, and then it turns out that, oh, the company I'm investing in, they're doing some stuff that's really not great, but wow, we are going to make $500 million. I think we're not going to stop doing that. I think guys are hypocrites like that all over the place. because they get paid to make money.
Right.
But there are funds that in their charter have very strict restrictions
Morality
like gambling
clauses,
and pornography. So.
Okay, let's have a general talk before I let you guys go, just about entrepreneurship today. You saw a range of companies. Did you feel the entrepreneurs in general were thinking big enough? It felt like a lot of the feedback coming from some of the entrepreneurs, Sky, Matt, Dave, Shervin, not big enough, not thinking big enough. Do you think people are thinking too pragmatic today?
I do. I thought a couple of the ideas were very big. Capricity, however you say that. Captricity.
Captricity,
and
yes.
the virtual gaming world, I thought were massive, big problems solved. But I thought everything else was very iterative. I like Block, but there's Code Academy, there's Treehouse, there's a dozen of these already, and they are all scaling. I don't know, maybe there's room for another, but it strikes me as very Me Too.
Right.
I'm sure they're doing it slightly better, but it's very B2. And I felt like a lot of those ideas were. And I think we've seen a lot of these ideas before, and they failed.
How does an entrepreneur manage that skill of, having angel investors say to them on one hand, how is this going to make money? How are you going to get traction? In this sort of tight, get to profitability mode that many investors are in, and then, oh, you're not thinking big enough. How do you execute small and go big?
I'll address the first. Sorry, do you want to?
No, go ahead.
I'll address the first question in a second. I think there is a need for bigger ideas. There's a market for bigger ideas, and I think in my first, I'm a rookie VC, but in 8 months of doing it, my filter for companies has started to develop, and I've learned some lessons, and part of it is what I call the love principle. If I don't fall in love with the company and the entrepreneur and the idea, then I'm not going to invest, and it better be a big idea. And as an entrepreneur, what I learned was that it takes the same amount of time out of every day to work on a small idea versus a big idea. It takes the same amount of time to run a small local coffee shop than it does to run Starbucks. It's the same amount of hours available to all of us. So which one would you rather spend your time on, and which one would you rather also invest in? That's been a very clear thing for me. So I think back to what you're talking about, this is an incredible time to build pretty historic companies, and we have companies that are growing to multi-billion-dollar companies in 18 months, 24 months. The Airbnbs, the Dropboxes, the Zyngas in a very fast amount of time.
Let's let Dave go next, and then you say.
So yeah, and I agree with what Shervin said. I guess I would also add, I think, and you heard this from a bunch of us, we're pretty focused on business models. Yeah. Even if you're not making money today, like having the business model, like I think the era of, I'm going to just get a lot of users and then I'm going to somehow figure out how to sell advertising against those users, it's over. Like we are drowning in advertising supported applications, and I can tell you there's not that many of them that are making it work, right? And so I think some of what you reacted to, I think when you looked at the ones we all liked, they all have business models behind them, even if they're not executing on them yet, but they're either subscription models, or they're API platforms, or the gambling business. They're business models, and I think my reaction, I have a hard time getting excited about something that's going to get a lot of users, and then someday we're going to figure out the ad business. I don't buy it.
Is the issue now that the advertising space is so saturated, we have so much usage, that it's just going to be consolidated in Facebook, Google, and Yahoo, and Microsoft, and Apple, and that the idea of hitting scale is just getting more difficult for advertising specifically, and advertising inventory is just so flooded?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ad inventory out there. The prices have kept coming down, not going up. Right. And so if you're going to be a general purpose ad platform, it's not clear that model is, maybe it's good as an angel business where you're just going to flip it to somebody who then is going to monetize it. But in terms of like building a big business, which is I think what Shervin's talking about, it's very, very tough to do as an ad business. And I think you're seeing less and less of those get funded for Series A and Series B.
And more consumer businesses like Uber and other ones that make actual money getting funded. Cyan, your thoughts?
Oh, I don't disagree that big businesses are great, but I think that a lot of big businesses started out really small. So if Mark Zuckerberg was on stage pitching us today on what Facebook was when it started, would we have invested? You know, it's a mashup of faces at Harvard? Like, no. You know, if Twitter came before us, you know, and we saw the first version of Twitter, would we have invested? Like, some of those big ideas start incredibly small, so I wouldn't discount that.
Well, I also, you know, to Dave, you know, part of me, a big part of me is like, yeah, I'm totally leaning into what you're saying, but then I take a step back and I just jotted down top of mind, Twitter, Foursquare, Tumblr, WordPress, Pinterest, Instagram. You know, some of the biggest monstrous businesses that we're seeing be built. And it takes a very long, I think Twitter has a pretty large revenue footprint now coming on stream. I know WordPress has a very large, you know, revenue footprint coming on stream. I watch it's doubling month over month.
You're an investor in it?
Yeah, I am. We're an investor in WordPress. So, and I'm on their board. So, but a lot of these businesses,
they have to get to that massive scale before they even get close to getting a business model.
They do, but
the odds of that are low.
The odds of that are very low, but there are certain things that you look at it and you just like, wow, you know, we're going to make that bet.
Sky, I mean, we talked before about like,
I agree.
Shervin made a good point, like, hey, you put as much effort into, or maybe it was Dave, put as much effort into a coffee shop as you do, Shervin said, as you do like, you know, the billion-dollar company. You started in a coffee shop and then launched Earthlink out of the coffee shop, created a multi-billion-dollar business, then did it again with Boingo, which went public, and as a couple $100 million market cap. You've done it over and over again in your career. What switched in your brain at some point to say, fuck the coffee shop, I'm going for the, you know, change the world thing? There must have been something where you were making mochas going, is this all there is, 16 hours a day of mochas?
Well, it's really interesting, you know, Shervin's analogy, it's so true. You know, when I started Earthlink, I had seen Starbucks rise up in the coffee business, whereas we had this little coffee house on Melrose in West Hollywood. It was, you know, one location. And they figured out how to take that experience and replicate it, you know, mass scale. And I said, okay, my next business, I actually told Howard Schultz this the first time I met him, my next business is going to be the Starbucks of that business. And that was Earthlink. So it was a big inspiration. I think, you know, in all of these things, we are focusing on the idea, we're focusing on the business model, which we should be, but those things are relatively easy to judge, even for us in like 3 minutes. The harder part, and probably the bigger determinant of success for all these companies, is going to be the people behind them, the entrepreneur. And, you know, who here is going to break through walls? There's not a single business that I've done that's been a huge success that wasn't left for dead at one point or multiple points. So, you know, who has the tenacity to break through that? And
speaking of tenacity,
I guarantee there will be cycles, and there will be, you know, as bright as it looks today, it will be as dark at some point tomorrow. And that's the thing, you know, we'd have to spend a lot more time and obviously figure that out.
Matt, your first business when I met you was quite laughable, Lower My Bills. The original concept was, you admit, kind of terrible. You were going to get people to send you their mail and then try to negotiate a better price on their phone.
Right.
And you beat your head against the wall for I don't know how many years on that business before essentially creating the category of lead generation with Lower My Bills and putting those pig ads all over the web and getting tons of lead generation, and then wind up selling the business for $500 million to Experian. How did you know to pivot that, and how did you get through those 3 years of banging your head against the wall with an idea that ultimately you felt was a bad idea, but at the time didn't? What in your brain switched and it gave you the ability to just pivot hard?
Well, a couple things. One, I'm in total in agreement with what Sky just said. Hey, it's ultimately really the people and their tenacity or their ability to be resourceful. And so I think with me, I never really thought about, you know, pivoting, and it was just, I loved what I was doing. I was ridiculously passionate about it. I wasn't thinking about, hey, how much money am I going to sell this business for, and blah, blah, blah. I loved doing it. I loved the team. And we were working at the business, and every day we were getting more learnings that either confirmed some assumptions we had about the business, or, you know, confirmed they were the wrong assumptions, right? And we just kept working at it. And no doubt, like Scott said, hey, we were left for dead, at one point and right there, and so we'd sort of gone through those things. So I think that you're learning in your business every day, and so that's what we were doing. And how I would relate it to your original question is that I think that hey, ultimately it's the people, but I think another thing to overlay, which is are you really solving a real problem? Right? Is there a big problem? Captricity is probably the best example. There were some others, but that's a real problem. It's big, it's gnarly, and there's not 50 guys kind of doing it, right? And I think that that's sort of a thing that can occur. But then I also think that I actually think that the Code Academy and all those businesses will both create a lot more small businesses as well as some big businesses, because the easier and more democratized it is, the more guys will go, oh, I'm going to build my version of a hair salon, right? Yeah. And they'll do that, and that's great. I think that's super cool. It may not have venture returns, but I think that's terrific, and I think that's happening now, and that's why you're seeing so many Me Too type stuff, is because it's easier. Real creativity that is new is really, really hard, right? Really hard.
And usually the person who is that innovative doesn't reap the rewards historically. Yeah. I mean, Facebook was the 5th or 6th or 7th social network. I mean, it's very rare that you have an Earthlink be the first ISP and one of the best.
Yeah, being a visionary means you have a lot of arrows in your back often.
Yeah. Okay, so best overall between all the a dozen or so companies we saw. AppStack. Make a web mobile site and get more customers with one phone number. Couple Street, Facebook for 2. Gonna Be, plan your party or whatever you're going to do tonight. Captricity, take tons of printed forms and easily get them digitized. SnapTac, creating 30 virtual niche communities in an Instagram-like format with e-commerce built into them. Fantasy Politics, which is fantasy sports for politics, up to future planning of your shared calendar. Block, easy to use learning development environment where teachers can post additional lessons. UHI 2.0, eye tracking for emotions. Aloha Mobile, we just did for a platform for mobility and persistent mobility. And the virtual gaming world, multi-level gaming, own your own casino. Which one is your absolute hands down favorite, and which one is your second place? Shervin.
My absolute number one is Captricity. It's a little hard to say.
Captricity, yeah. It's a bad name.
Thank you.
It's like electricity
I think that was the clear winner.
Okay, and your number 2?
My second would be VGW.
VGW, I like it. Okay. Dave, your number 1 is obviously Captricity because you invested in it already. You have to say that. So excluding that, your number 1 and number 2, please.
I'd say Aloha and Virtual Gaming World.
Great. Cyan.
I'm going to flip it, Virtual Gaming Worlds, and then Captricity.
Great. Brad.
Virtual Gaming World and then AppStack.
Very good. Sky.
I mean, it's tough, which one can be a multi-billion-dollar business?
And that's, what we're basing
I think any of them could be, but Captricity seems like the most obvious, followed probably by, I want to say AppStack because they've got the early pieces of that, but it needs, just a glimmer of it. So Captricity would be number 1 and probably AppStack number 2.
Great. Matt.
VGW number 1 and Captricity as number 2.
Tony.
Captricity, VGW.
Great. This has been an amazing panel. We're going to take a 10-minute break and then come back with the grand jury and a couple of demo pick companies. Let's hear it for an amazing panel. Tony Conrad of True Ventures, Matt Coffin, angel investor, Sky Dayton, serial entrepreneur, Brad with Room 77, Cyan angel investor, Dave Goldberg of SurveyMonkey, my favorite survey product, and Shervin Pishavar, bon vivant, world traveler, hanging out with the president, chief technology officer, and the future governor of California, Shervin Pishavar, also with Menlo Partners. Thank you, guys. Let's big round of applause for our judges. 10-minute break.